Hello everyone, myself Dr. Amanpreet Kaur. In this lecture, we'll study about origin and evolution of chordates. As we all know, Chordata is the last major phylum of animal kingdom. It was created by scientist Balfour in the year 1880. The term chordata is a Greek term which comes from chorde, that means string or cord, and eta, that means bearing. So chordata are all the animals. Group chordata include all the animals which have cord-like structure, which is nothing but notochord. Notochord also is a Greek term. Noton means back and chorda means cord, as we just told. So notochord runs on the back of the body, that means on the dorsal side. What is it? It is a stiff supporting rod-like structure along the back found in all members of phylum Chordata at some stage of their lives. So as you can see in this figure below, the dark orange colored rod, solid rod, notochord is a solid rod-like structure which extends from head to the back of the body, and its function is supporting. It provides structural support to the body. It is present during some stage of life, definitely in all the chordates. The phylum Chordate includes us, the human beings, along with other vertebrates. If we talk about the time of origin of chordates, the earliest known truly vertebrate animals were the freshwater forms, which were abundant during late Silurian and middle Devonian period, as you can see in the geological time scale given on right side. The fossils which were found during this period are collectively known as ostracoderms. How these ostracoderms looked like, so based upon the fossil records which are available, it is said that the ostracoderm's body was covered by dermal bony armor, as you can see on the right part of the figure, on the head region, forming an elaborate rounded solid shield. They had persistent notochord. There were no vertebrae. Mouth was anterior, ventral. They lacked jaw. There were no jaw or teeth in ostracoderms. They were without paired appendages. They had paired eyes, as you can also see in the figure. There was a median nostril. There was a pineal eye, and a variable number of pharyngeal gill slits were present on the lateral common or separate gill openings. And these, because of presence of gills, were adapted for filter feeding. The oldest fossil of ostracoderms were discovered in late Cambrian strata. As you can see, late Cambrian strata in the Paleozoic era. So, the time of origin of chordate must be sought back in Paleozoic times in the Cambrian period around 550 to 600 million years ago. Talking about the place of origin of chordates, there are two separate concepts. One is the freshwater theory of origin of vertebrates, which was given by Chamberlain in the year 1900. This was supported by other scientists like Romer and Homer Smith. They said that the dilute body fluids which are present in vertebrates compared to seawater and glomerular kidneys to get rid of excess water, these have evolved as an adaptation of freshwater condition. So according to these scientists, this group of scientists, the ancestor or the place of origin of chordates was freshwater. On the other side, there were other group of scientists who believed that the place of origin of chordates is marine. They had some set of arguments to support their say, which is the protochordates and deuterostome invertebrates, they are all exclusively marine forms. The echinoderms, hemichordates, urochordates, cephalochordates, they are all marine. All known Cambrian and Ordovician vertebrates, they also occur as marine forms. And glomerular kidney is also found in hagfishes, which is exclusively marine, and it has body fluids similar to seawater in salt concentration. So these arguments support that place of origin of chordates is sea and not fresh water. Next, coming to origin and evolution of chordates. Earlier chordate ancestors were all soft-bodied forms. Because they were soft-bodied forms, there are no fossil records. So we cannot trace back the earliest chordate to complete the evolutionary tree of chordates. The only basis for judging the origin of chordates comes from resemblance between lower chordates. And for that, almost every phylum in animal kingdom is suggested to have some affinity with chordates, be it Porifera, Cnidaria, Platyhelminth, Annelids, mollusk, Arthropoda. Every phylum has been compared and has been found to have some affinity with chordates. But giving a thought that human beings, they have evolved from poriferans or we have evolved from earthworm, it is very hard to believe. So the theories are far from being satisfactory and convincing and have only a historic value, all these theories. Only theories which are of some significance are the echinoderm onwards. So echinoderm theory has received some acceptance and will be considered and evaluated under deuterostome line of chordate ancestry. So what is deuterostome? Before going further into the evolution of chordates, let us first understand the division of BILATERIA. The greatest group of metazoan phylum, that is BILATERIA, the animals having bilateral symmetry, is divided into two major divisions, Protostomia and Deuterostomia. Protostomia, which means proto means first, stoma means mouth. So first opening during development, which is blastopore, becomes mouth in protostomes. So all the animals in which the first developmental opening, that is blastopore, forms the mouth of adult are called protostomes. On the other side, deuterostomes, deutero means second mouth, include all the animals where the second opening forms mouth and the first opening, that is blastopore, becomes the anus of adult. There are some other differences between protostomia and deuterostomia. First, based upon cleavage, protostomes, they have spiral and determinate cleavage. Determinate, that means each blastomere is destined to form its final part of the body. While in deuterostome, the initial cleavage are radial and indeterminate. That means each of the blastomere up till 8th cell stage definitely is capable of giving rise to a separate individual if it is separated from rest of the bulk. Then coelom formation in protostomes, coelom is schizocilous. Schizocilous is formed by solid masses of mesodermal which gets splitting to form coelom. And in deuterostome, it is enterocilous, that means folds of archenteron, as you can see in red color over here, forms the coelom. So entero means anteron, that means gut. So folds from gut, they pouch, they fuse and forms the coelom. Such kind of coelom is called enterocoelom. The fate of blastopore in protostomes, as the name suggests, blastopore forms mouth in protostomes and blastopore, the first opening, forms anus in deuterostomes. So we have discussed the first four differences, that is cleavage, fate of blastopore, mesoderm formation, coelom formation. There are some more differences. Type of larva in protostome is trochophore larva. In deuterostome, it is Tornaria or Bipinaria larva, except for vertebrates where larval stage is not present. Phosphagen, that is the biochemical molecule which is which is used for transfer of energy, is arginine in protostomes and creatinine in deuterostomes. And the major phyla which are included in protostomes are Annelida, Mollusca, and Arthropoda, while in deuterostomes these are Echinodermata, Hemichordata, and Chordata. So this is the deuterostome line of chordate evolution that we are talking about, the right side of the table, deuterostome. So these features, radial and indeterminate cleavage, blastopore forming anus, mesoderm formation, enterocoelom, type of larva, phosphagen present are same in the three main phyla, Echinodermata, Hemichordata, and Chordata. So this clearly suggests that chordates, they evolved from echinoderms and hemichordates following the deuterostome line of evolution. But still, the precise or exact relationship of the three deuterostome phyla, that is Echinoderm, Hemichordata, and Chordata, remains unknown, but there is no doubt, having seen so many similarities, that they share a common evolutionary history. Several workers have attempted to explain this deuterostome line of chordate evolution, and in this attempt, there are a few theories about the origin and evolution of chordates. The first is Echinoderm ancestry by Johannes Müller, Hemichordate ancestry by Romer, Eurochordate ancestry by Garstang and Beryl, Cephalochordate ancestry by Chamberlain, and the final, most accepted theory is the Harrington's hypothesis by E.J.W. Harrington in the year 1965. We will take each one of them one by one. The Echinoderm ancestry given by Johannes Müller suggests that the Echinoderm larva is very similar to the larva of Hemichordata, the Tarnaria larva of Hemichordata. So comparative study of larval stages of Echinoderms and Hemichordates suggest that the two resemble a lot. That means they have a common ancestry. So Echinoderm larvae gave rise to chordates by neoteny. The theory says that Echinoderm larvae gave rise to chordates by neoteny. That means the Echinoderm larva, it retained the larval characters and attained maturity. That means became sexually mature. Neoteny means the retention of juvenile features in the adult animal. Like chordates, echinoderms are also deuterostomia and possess mesodermal skeletal elements. An echinoderm fossil, calcichordate, they show affinities with both echinoderms and chordates. Again, hemichordates and echinodermates use both arginine and creatinine as their phosphate carriers. These all are points of similarity between echinoderms and higher chordates, but there are still differences. The descent of chordates from echinoderms by direct transformation is very tough to accept. That means if we think that we evolved from starfish is our ancestor, it is very far from believing, but still this is accepted that they both had a common ancestor and evolved on different lines through that common ancestor. So the view most accepted is that living echinoderms and living chordates had in common an immediate ancestor. Echinoderm is not the ancestor of chordates, but both echinoderms and chordates, they had a common ancestor because they have so much in common. Second is the hemichordate theory given by Romer. This theory is based upon the similarities between hemichordate, the characteristic example being balanoglossus, which have pharyngeal gill slits, hemichordates and chordates. They have sedentary lifestyle and they have the hollow dorsal nerve cord. But one major requirement is missing, that the presence of true notochord in hemichordate is still questionable. The body plan of hemichordates is very different from that of vertebrates, and that is why, because of not a surety of presence of a true notochord, the hemichordates, they are given a separate phyla and are not considered in chordates. So prospect of some hemichordates as a likely ancestor of vertebrates is not possible, so they are put under a separate phylum of their own. The third theory is the Eurochordate ancestry by Garstein and Beryl. According to this theory, the larva of Eurochordates, the tadpole larva, Assyrian larva, failed to metamorphose into adult and developed gonads, again showing neoteny, also called pedomorphosis, and became adult. So according to this theory, the larva failed to metamorphose into adult, developed gonads, reproduced in the larval stage, and this gave rise to chordates. But the theory considered sessile Eurochordates to be ancestor to chordates, which is not possible because sessility, wherever it is present, is a highly specialized condition. So came the next theory, the cephalochordate ancestry by Chamberlain. This theory says that chordates evolved from animals like Amphioxus, because Amphioxus has all the three basic requirements of being a chordate, and all the three features are present throughout life, even in the adult. But still there are some points against this theory. The excretory system of cephalochordates, that is Amphioxus, characteristic example, has flame cells which are called solenocytes, which is altogether different from that of vertebrates which have kidneys. Solenocytes again are ectodermal, and therefore they are not homologous to kidneys which are mesodermal in origin. And then there is a lack of strong cephalization and sense organs and unique forward extension of notochord. So because of all these points, cephalochordates, they may again hint of a likely ancestral body plan of vertebrates, but they themselves are not our ancestors. Both may have again a common ancestor, and then they evolved into separate lines during the course of evolution from that common remote ancestor. Coming to the last, Harrington's hypothesis. This is based upon the deuterostome line of chordate evolution. It said that the common echinoderm chordate ancestor was in all probability a small sessile or semi-sessile lophophorate or arm-feeding creature fed by ciliary method by trapping food particles in a set of waving tentacles. Something like this. A common ancestral stock, primitive, sessile, arm feeder, feeding with the help of arms. From this common ancestral stock formed the pogonophorans. Then they again modified one of the branch to form the primitive echinoderms. Another branch became modified to form pterobranchs. These ancestral stock, it evolved, had a shift from arm feeding to gill feeding. Gills came instead of arms and formed Proto-Assyrians, primitive sessile gill feeders. Proto-Assyrians, that means primitive to the Eurochordates. These Proto-Assyrians, one line of evolution formed the hemichordates, and the other line of evolution formed the Assyrians, that means the Eurochordates, primitive ancestral Assyrians. From these primitive ancestral Assyrians, one line formed advanced Eurochordates or advanced Assyrians, and the other line in which free-swimming larvae of Assyrians, that means Eurochordates, underwent pedogenesis or neoteny to form sessile adult stages lost, The larva itself underwent pedogenesis and to form these cephalochordates, which include lancelets, amphioxus or branchiostoma, and another line evolved to form primitive vertebrates from which fishes and then later on mammals. After fishes, amphibians, reptiles, mammals and birds, they all evolved. This is the most acceptable theory about the origin and evolution of chordates, the Harrington's hypothesis. This is all about origin and evolution of chordates, and before signing off, here is the fossil records to remember. It is good to remember the milestones which occurred during each period of the geological time scale, like Cambrian, first fishes came on Earth, Ordovician, major diversification, Silurian, first jawed fish fossils were found, Devonian, first tetrapod fossils were found, Carboniferous, first reptile fossils are found, Triassic, first mammalian fossils, Jurassic, first bird fossils were found. Collectively, Mesozoic is called the age of reptiles, Cenozoic era is called age of mammals, and the Devonian and Carboniferous period, these are called the age of fishes and reptiles. That is all about this lecture. Thank you so much.